Hello everybody and welcome to another episode of Box Office Talk. This is the show where I break down what happened at the box office, see if my predictions for the top 5 are correct, and then make predictions for next week's top 5. So let's get right on into it. Last week I predicted that number 1 would be Avengers Endgame, number 2 would be Ugly Dolls, number 3 would be Long Shot, number 4 would be The Intruder, and number 5 would be Captain Marvel. And I got 3 out of 5 of my predictions right for this weekend, which is pretty okay. All of the new releases were pretty interchangeable as far as which could make more than the others, so I didn't do all that bad taking that into consideration. So let's go over what happened in the overall top 10. Number 1 was, of course, Avengers Endgame. Once again, it had about a 59% drop from its opening weekend, but that's about on average with every other Marvel film out there, so that's really not too bad at all because it still made about $145 million this weekend, adding to a domestic total of $619 million, and that's $4 million away from outgrossing the first Avengers' domestic total, like its overall domestic run. So we'll definitely be seeing that happen on Monday when those earnings come in, and that's very fantastic for that film. Domestically, it might become the highest grossing film ever, but it still needs to get to about $936 million. That's where The Force Awakens is at, but it's still going on a really high track there. Worldwide, it is sitting at $2.188 billion already, and that is the highest grossing Marvel film ever. When you look at it worldwide wise, that is fantastic for the film. Domestically, it still needs to get past $700 million, which it definitely will do, to become the highest grossing domestic Marvel movie ever, but it's definitely going to do that very soon. The fact that worldwide it's already there is quite astonishing, though, and it's $600 million away from beating Avatar as the highest grossing worldwide release ever, pretty much. So I think we're definitely going to be seeing that happen in the next couple of days. This is a historic event as far as the box office and financial returns go. Avengers Endgame is crushing it right now, and I look forward to seeing where else it'll go. If it's going to become the highest grossing domestic release ahead of Star Wars The Force Awakens, if it'll be able to compete that well with the upcoming summer releases, I'm honestly super pumped to see where else this film goes. Number 2 was The Intruder, making $11 million, and this is on a budget of $8 million, so they only need about $5 million more to double that budget, so they're really in no trouble here. I think next weekend it'll be able to hold over well because I think some more people are still seeing Avengers, and then you give that some time, maybe some people will seek other releases in the top 10 like The Intruder out, so I think it's really just a kind of waiting game to see where this film is kind of at financially. Number 3, we have Long Shot, very similar situation, but kind of a bummer that it didn't make more. It made $10 million this weekend, which is the 3rd highest opening weekend for a Jonathan Levine film, but Warm Bodies, his highest, is like $20 million, so it's really not saying much, really. Worldwide, it is sitting at $13 million right now on a budget of $40 million, and they need to get by $80 million in order to double that, and it's looking pretty rough right now. Like I said with The Intruder, it could make more money in the next coming weeks when more people go see Avengers. But then again, you also have movies like Pokemon Detective Pikachu coming out, and Aladdin, and Godzilla, and all these movies, so it's gonna be a waiting game to see if people are gonna go seek out these other films that are being released right now, if they're just gonna go see the big movies like Avengers or a Pokemon Detective Pikachu. Number 4, we have Ugly Dolls, which I don't think will recover that well at all. It only made $8 million, and this is on a budget of $45 million. I think you can already classify this as a huge flop. I believe this is STX's first animated film too, so to open it out with an opening weekend like this, with all these big stars and a Rotten Tomatoes score as low as it has, it definitely is not a good starter for them. Number 5, we have Captain Marvel, making $4 million, adding to a domestic total of $420 million, and worldwide it is sitting at $1.120 billion, which is obviously fantastic for this movie, still holding out very well, but I just went over the Marvel movie you want me to talk about, which is Endgame, so I think we'll just move right along with Captain Marvel. I think I've talked enough about how much of a success it is, so let's move on to number 6, which is Breakthrough, making $3.9 million, adding to a domestic total of $33 million, and worldwide it is sitting at $41 million. So it's about $1 million away from actually tripling its $14 million budget, which is pretty good. It's definitely going to get there for sure, and that's pretty good for this movie that I could really care less about and have no interest in seeing, and probably won't see, but it has its audience, so of course it's making money. Let's move on to number 7, which is The Curse of La Llorona, making $3.5 million, adding to to a domestic total of $48 million. Still nowhere near the overall domestic runs of the other Conjuring films, and worldwide it is still lacking extremely, but it did enter the 100 millions though. It is sitting at $103 million worldwide, so that is still very good. I'd like to reiterate that because the budget was kept very low of $9 million, they have made a lot of money off of this thing. It's just compared to the other Conjuring movies, it's just not doing that well. Maybe if they promoted the fact that it was a Conjuring movie more, maybe more people will go out and see it, but then again, it's not really connected to it. Like La Llorona hasn't appeared in any of the other Conjuring movies so far, so marketing wise it just probably wasn't their best strategy. Number 8, we have Shazam making $2 million, adding to a domestic total of $135 million, and worldwide it is sitting at $355 million. So still nowhere near any of the other DC films domestic runs or worldwide runs, and compared to Captain Marvel and Avengers Endgame, these numbers may look pretty lame for a superhero film, but it is actually doing quite well considering the budget, how they kept it pretty low, and the fact that it did get good reviews for a DC film. It's doing pretty well for itself, even after certain other DC films have kind of tinted the brand at least. It is kind of a shame that Aquaman made a ton more money than this though, and I think Shazam is a much better film than that. Number 9, we have Little making $1.47 million, adding to a domestic total of $38 million. Worldwide it is sitting at $46 million, so it's already doubled its budget and made $6 million over that. I don't think I need to dwell on this for too long because I've talked enough about it. It's probably not even going to be here next weekend. And number 10, we have Dumbo, finally about to leave the top 10, making $1.43 million, adding to a domestic total of $109 million. Worldwide it is sitting at $338. So I think when it gets out of the top 10, it will make that $2 million it needs to get to $340 million and double its $170 million budget finally. But since it won't be in the top 10, that means I won't have to report on it, which is good for me because you all know how much I really dislike this movie, and I'm glad that I don't have to bring it up anymore. Now it's time for the fun part, the predictions for next week's top 5. Number 1, I still think will be Avengers Endgame, but number 2, I think will be Pokemon Detective Pikachu. I think that's going to make a lot of money even with it competing with Avengers. Number 3, The Hustle. Number 4, Tolkien. And number 5, The Intruder. But what are your predictions for next week's top 5? Leave them in the comments below. And as always, thank you guys for watching. Make sure to subscribe. I'm Jackson Fulcher. See you guys next time.